Hello and welcome to the Jumpstart Podcast with Jeffalytics. I'm your host, Jeff Sauer. Today, for our 55th episode, I wanted to continue on with a few themes from the previous episodes we've had and share progress with some of my projects that I have going on right now. Now, I'm recording this the day after the 4th of July holiday here in the U.S., which is pretty much my favorite time of the year to be in my home state of Minnesota. It's pretty great. We spent some time on the lake. My wife and some other family members and we decorated a pontoon boat and we entered it into a boat parade. And not only did we decorate it and have a good time, but we ended up winning the whole thing, which is pretty great. There's even a cash prize that was handed to me on a hook in a plastic bag so that it didn't get wet in case we dropped it. Now, that sentence didn't really mean much to you, then you've never been to Minnesota, but that's pretty much how we do everything. Hooks in plastic bags so that things don't get wet. Anyway, rather than celebrate that victory all night and blow all the prize money, I did the responsible thing, and I played the role of sober cab. Now, the reason why I did that is because I had meetings early in the day, and I needed to be fresh, bright-eyed, and bushy-tailed for the meetings that I had. Now, why did I have meetings the next day? Because I'm stupid. And actually, there's a reason why I had meetings the next day, and that's actually the purpose of today's podcast. But before we get to that story, I wanted to provide another update. Now, this is about the effectiveness of telling stories in presentations and how I had a breakthrough a couple weeks ago in my presentation in Estonia. Well, it worked. My speech in Estonia, I thought it went really well when we were there in person, and people were talking to me, coming up and saying, hey, I loved what you had to say. It was entertaining. And it was voted one of the top talks at the entire conference. And it's important to me because this is a big stage. It's an international conference in front of a lot of people who I admire, and things went great. And it wasn't the number one, but it was one of the top ones, and I got some really positive feedback. And so I owe it all to telling better stories and improving on my flaws. And that talk was a nice shot in the arm. Now, I wanted to share with you some of the more funny ones. So let me give you some of the comments that I received on this speech. It was a pleasure to hear this presentation. Interesting and funny, but I missed a conclusion. I think that's pretty accurate. Good storytelling, but what does it mean for me? Funny ways to present complicated subjects. I can now say I understand attribution models. Entertaining and great points, nothing new though. There's always those type of comments. Good examples, nice story, and good speaker skills. Great storytelling. Very good presentation. The wedding example was spot on. Funny and useful. Excellent. Excellent, very concrete storytelling by example. And it just goes on and on. Jeff had an excellent session, and he's a natural speaker and educator. He presented his subject trying to tie it in with a real-life story, and it was really relevant. See, everybody mentions the story in this thing. That's really what the value was. They related to this story. And so obviously that's just a sample of one, but there was, hundreds of people who saw this and tons of people filled out the form, and they all said they liked it. So apparently storytelling does work. And so if you're on the fence, if you think I'm full of it, well, there's the feedback from other people from many countries all over the world. So that's just an update. I'm not trying to toot my own horn because I put a lot of pressure on myself for this one, and it's good to see that it worked how I wanted it to. And I like to give people data-driven evidence that these things I'm trying do work. Now, let's move on. This and many of the projects that I've been talking about in recent episodes have been paying off for my business, not just speaking, but implementing a CRM system, going through the process of learning how other people are hustling myself, not giving up, not stopping everything. And I think it's going to start paying off everywhere that I go, like this podcast, for example. Last week, I was talking about how I am investing in scheduling tools to track my calendar, book my time, book podcasts more consistently. So I did pull the trigger on a system, and it's really going to be helpful for me to book podcasts, consultations, and much more. The other thing that's going to work out really well here is that I can consistently book podcasts well into the future. So if I have blocked off a day of the week that I do podcasts, I can get them scheduled so that I'm not desperately scrambling. I can send out invitations to more people because now I can tell them what time I'm available. So the scheduling is going to be really nice. Now I'm using something called Acuity Scheduling, and the reason why I signed up for it is because it looked a little bit more robust than Calendly, and it also interfaces with Pipedrive, so I can use it to handle things in Pipedrive. Basically, I find a hot lead, I can then synchronize that data into Pipedrive. And so what I do is I put a little form out there, and I tell people that they can do a 15-minute. I made an offer last week. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I made an offer last week in my email list, my agency email list. I said, hey, the first 5 people who respond to me can schedule a 15-minute consultation with me. And basically, I got 5 within 5 minutes. And then over the course of the weekend, I got many more than that, people who wanted to talk to me for this consultation. And rather than going back and forth with all of them, I said, I'm going to finally implement this scheduling system. So I basically said, here's the times that you can schedule a 15-minute consultation with me. And I actually booked it off for 30, knowing that it was going to go a little bit longer than that. But the promise was 15 minutes. And so, long story longer, when I woke up and looked at this thing, the first day that I allowed people to book my time was at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, July 5th. And so from 9 a.m., I had a 9 a.m., a 9:30, an 11, and a 12. So I had 4 calls within, before I even barely finished my coffee before lunch today. And it was pretty nuts. And so this is the part about scheduling your time and allowing people to schedule your time. I'm sort of a rookie at this. And basically, I got some really good insights. I had some awesome calls. I'll talk some more about those in just a minute here. But today for the episode, I wanted to talk about 10 thoughts on allowing people to schedule your time. Now, the reason why I held off in letting people schedule my time for so long and not using these apps is because of point number 1. I value freedom. The reason why, and hopefully nobody's listening to this that I used to be working with, but I think some of you are. The reason why I left my previous job is because I would walk in and every hour of my life was scheduled. I basically was in meetings all day, every day, and we went into meetings to talk about meetings. And I was like, man, I never want to be in a meeting again. I never want to have my time booked off. I want work time. I want think time. I want time that I can use to create things, to be an entrepreneur. And so I value that freedom a lot. And so the thought of letting people schedule my time was like, man, that's taking away my freedom. And that's basically putting me at the same level I was at my previous gig. But the only thing is that it's worse because anybody can schedule it. And so basically, I don't even have the level of control where I can say no because these are customers who are scheduling my time. And so I was like, I value freedom and I want that above all else. But man, I think that the reason why I chose this Acuity Scheduling is because what I can do is I can block off time. I can block off family time using my family calendar on iCloud. I can do my Gmail calendar. I can do my company, my Digital Mantis company calendar. They can all be blocked off on the same place. And so they synchronize with all my accounts and everything that I have, and then they block it off across all of them as well. And so basically, I don't have to maintain a calendar. If it's booked off on anything in my life, family, friends, and business, then it's booked off, and so people can't book it. The other thing is I can choose certain hours for certain days. I can block off holidays like the 4th of July like I did. I can block off my travel time. I can block off a bunch of time. And so that's really nice. And so I was able to do that and make it so that I really only let people schedule time when I wanted to work or when I wanted to work on that particular project. So basically, I decided that I wanted to spend today, the day that I'm recording this, and then tomorrow, the day that this goes live, talking to potential customers and helping them have a breakthrough with their business. And so I didn't mind having them all stacked together because that's sort of what I wanted. That's what my experiment was here is let's get in front of some people. Let's see how they talk to us. Let's get our systems in place. And so what this does is I get to ask them questions before the call. Tell me about your business. Tell me what your struggles are. Instead of spending the first 10 minutes on the call getting to know them, they have to do it in a concise way in order to book my time. This gets pushed into Pipedrive, so I actually have a record of all the conversations we have there, and all kinds of other cool stuff is happening. But I think I'm jumping through my points. I might not even get to 10 points if I tell you everything in point number 1. So the reason why I resisted it for so long is because I value my freedom. Point number 2, life is not about 30-minute increments. Continuing on with that, I sort of hate the idea of that just because a calendar shows time in 30 minutes and 60 minutes that you need that much time to do something. I've never been a fan of that. I've never been a fan of booking off 30 minutes of time when you need 10. And so this thing gives me 15-minute slot appointments, which I think is pretty good. But what I do is I call them 15 minutes and then I schedule them for 30 just in case it runs long, and so that I'm not getting, back-to-back appointments. That was the thing that I'm still trying to figure out how to do with this scheduling system, is how do I have break time in between? Because I did one at 9 a.m. It got started a little bit late. Then I did one at 9:30, and I basically had 2 minutes in between. And it's not fair to me, not fair to the person I'm talking to if I'm still in one mode and I'm going to the other. It actually worked out pretty well this time, but I'm not going to make it a habit. And so how do you get beyond these increments? How do you pad your time so that you can focus on something? But also, do I want to have sales days? Do I want one day a week to be my sales day? One day a week to be podcast day? One day a week to be work on other projects day? I'm not sure. So I'm still trying to figure this out. But what I do know is that life is not about 30-minute increments. And so I don't want to be controlled by my calendar. That's the last thing I'm going to do. And so I'm still trying to figure it out. Number 3, talking with your prospects is awesome. I've been mentioning this in a few recent episodes. It's pretty great. I really enjoy it. I had a call today with somebody who, I had so many calls with people at various stages in their business that it was really interesting. Each person, even though they're all agency owners or freelancers or people who just got started, they all have different needs and different desires and different advice that I gave them. And so there was 4 people all at different stages of their business, and I don't think I repeated myself once. And so that was pretty exciting to me, and that is, it validates a few things. One is, I can't give away the farm. Part of the reason why somebody might be concerned about giving somebody a business breakthrough call where we just tell them how to get through a piece of their business is that they'll never need them again. And that sometimes crosses my mind. If I give somebody really good advice during this call, will they ever need my premium course, my premium product? And then I was like, man, they're going to need it even more because I'm giving them the answer, but there's so many more answers they need. Basically, I can do in 15 minutes, we can do one breakthrough, but I have 45 lessons giving you breakthroughs. And I'm adding 10 more to the course. So basically 55 minimum breakthroughs you're going to have in your business. And so, yes, there is more. So I can talk to anybody until I'm blue in the face, and I will never run out of ideas and options because there's so many things you need to know if you want to run a successful business. And so talking with prospects is awesome. And also just from going through those conversations, I get to know if there's a sales objection, how do you overcome them? How do you put this information on your content pages? How do you make the product better? And so I'm getting a one-on-one dialogue instead of looking at an analytics tool to see that my bounce rate was high or my email delivery rate was down. Those are all things that we can look at from metrics perspective, but this is all aggregated and we're just guessing as to what people are doing. But when you look at it from the perspective of talking to somebody on the phone and they tell you these things, it puts a lot more life around it. So it's basically quantitative and qualitative data, a way of looking at things. And that you can do when you talk to your prospects. And honestly, I can do 5 in a day, which is a little bit too much, maybe 3 in a day if I schedule it and I don't handle the scheduling piece at all. It's actually no burden at all. They're doing everything, and all I have to do is talk and react to what they're sharing with me. So it shifts the balance of power. It allows the research to go much more quickly. It's just been great. And so I don't know how I'm going to feel about it in day 365, but day 1, pretty great so far. And that leads me to number 4. This system is brilliant. Acuity Scheduling is brilliant. It saves me a lot of time. Basically, somebody says, I want the 15-minute breakthrough. Am I in one of the first 5? If they were, then I say, yep, here's a link. Schedule your time, answer these questions, and we'll get on to a Hangout. I'll hit the record button. You'll have an MP4 file, or a M4A, excuse me. You'll have an audio file within an hour of when we hang up if I don't overschedule it. And so that's what I did. Basically, the system I have in place, email gets them interested. They go and schedule time. We talk. And then the CRM, the pipe drive, keeps track of everything. And it keeps track of all the emails we've sent. It keeps track of what we talked about. And not only that, but I have the file. I have all the audio we talked about too. So I have a complete record of our relationship. Now, some people might think, why do you need a record of a relationship? Shouldn't you know that stuff? Well, I talk to a lot of people. And I try to remember every detail, and I do remember a lot of details, but not everything's not perfect. And these, the closing sequence on one of these courses might take a long time. It might take 6 months before somebody's ready. And so I want to have that. I want to be able to get back in that frame of mind afterwards. And so by recording it, we can transcribe it. We can pull quotes that I give or advice that I give, help it with other people. Just all kinds of cool stuff you can do with this system. And I did 4 calls today. In about 5 hours total, I did what normally would have taken me 3 days to pull off, just because I automated it. So I built a system that does some pretty amazing things. And so I'm really excited with how it's turned out so far. The system is brilliant. And it's not just the system that I built, but it's these off-the-shelf software pieces that are so good too. And these integrations, these connective tissues that go with it. Number 5, you can get great results and not be a douche. I wrote this one down. I didn't put any more words around it, but I think it just means that in general, and this is what I say a lot, is that you can get what you want, which is interest, which is people interested in what you're doing. You don't have to be flashy about it. You don't have to be over-promising. I basically am trying to get the results and prove that you can do this in an honest way that gives people what they want, and then you get what you want as well. And so it seems like it's working so far. I don't have to do all these crazy high-pressure sales tactics, which I don't really enjoy. I can just give value, and if people see that as valuable, then they're probably going to want to sign up for more value. And so hopefully that is going to continue on. But I definitely am not planning on turning into a douche anytime soon. Some of you might already think that I am, but unfortunately, you're wrong. And this is my podcast, so what are you going to do about it? Okay, number 6. That really got pretty dark pretty quick, didn't it? Number 6, hybrid everything. Okay, what does that mean? I was thinking when I wrote this down like Hybrid Theory, the Linkin Park album, but no, that's not what I was talking about. What I meant by hybrid everything is that none of these systems alone is perfect. Having a scheduling system where somebody can take all of your time is horseshit. It's the one-way ticket to never getting anything done in your business. Well, let me step back a second. So continuing on at number 5 about not being a douche, one of the things that I don't like is when you have never met somebody before and they send you a link to their Calendly and they say, hey, let's schedule 15 minutes to talk. Like, you've never met them. They're cold outreaching to you. They're saying, they're basically like, hey, did I ever tell you about something analytics, which is funny, ironic, because my name has analytics in it too. But did I tell you about soup analytics? It tells you how many soup labels go through something or other. This is a terrible example, by the way. I shouldn't ad-lib. I should write all these things down before I do the podcast. But anyway, Soupalytics, telling you about the new app soup, Domino's. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. This might have to get cut out of the podcast. But anyway, this blind outreach, cold outreach from somebody asking you and being so bold that you just want to get on their calendar for 15 minutes and you're going to just talk to somebody who you know is trying to sell you because their job title is sales. I hate that. The reason why I resisted scheduling so much is because I don't want to be that D-bag who's like, I'm so important that you've never heard of me before, but I'm so important that I'm going to give you 15 minutes to talk about something. I'm sort of the opposite. My 15 minutes is super valuable and it's not for everybody. I don't want to reserve that for everybody. And so I don't want a public link to be able to schedule my time to do something. You have to prove that you're worthwhile as well. So I think, yes, it's okay and it's good to have these scheduling pages, but it's not something where you just automatically tell somebody to get on your calendar. The last thing I want to do is to be talking to every single person. I'd rather do fewer calls more effectively. I'd rather talk to the people who I want to talk to. And so I made this offer to a very targeted segment of my list. Some of you might have been on it. Some of you probably weren't because you're not in that targeted list area. And then we talked. And so they already went through a qualification period. And then I limited it to the number to 5 because I wasn't going to do more than 5 calls. Now I'm a softie, and so I let in more than 5 people because people, they were used up in 5 minutes. I didn't really feel right because there's people all over the world that wanted to get a consultation. But either way, hybrid is the right approach. So just because you have a scheduler doesn't mean that anybody cares. And just because you have the ability to schedule and book up your whole day and feel self-importance by booking it up doesn't mean that's the right thing for your business. You will get nothing done if you do that. And so I'm trying to hybrid it. I'm going to use this thing, but only to just stop with the back and forth on email, and also to help keep track of things because I just have too much going on. And that's been a common theme as this business expands, is that you can't keep tabs on everything. And so a hybrid model works the best. Nothing is perfect off the shelf. Nothing is usually used as you think it's designed to be used. You just figure out what works for you. And that leads me to number 7. Keeping better records for your organization is important. So I already touched on this. Basically, Pipedrive will ask survey questions of people before they schedule an appointment with me. So all those answers that they got for the appointment, that goes into their record. My recording of our call goes into the record. The emails that I sent them goes into our record. The web pages they visit, yes, that goes into their record. I have a tool that I invested in that keeps track of that as well. That sounds creepy, but by going to my privacy policy, you have implicit consent that you're looking to do that. But basically, I have now a great record of everything that's going on, whereas before, 2 weeks ago, I didn't have anything. I just had in my mind. And as I had this database of record, as I have this Pipedrive system in place, I'm finding all kinds of cool ways to take advantage of that. Taking the survey answers that somebody gave me 6 months ago or a year ago, now I can score them and I can follow up with them and I can schedule that activity. There's all kinds of things we can do now that I've systematized things. And that's really the whole point of this thing, is that, yes, any one piece of software might be promising. You can sign up for Calendly and then send people the ability to book your time. But I don't think that's always the best use of your time. I don't think that's always the way to get the most done. And so you should always take ideas, concepts, even things that I'm talking about here, and then turn it into a system that works for you. Now, some of you are listening to this and you're like, I'm never going to need a sales system because I don't have a company. I'm just me. I'm just me at my job. I listen to this on the way to work because I know you and you're paying me to listen to this. Actually, I'm not paying anybody to listen to this. Let me be clear about that. I don't want anybody to think that this is a paid listenership. But you know what I mean? Like, somebody just listens because they just want to see if I screw up, or whatever the reason you have to listen to this thing. That's great. But guess what? Why don't you just sign up for a free CRM system and just put every contact you ever met into it? Every business card, everybody on your LinkedIn, just throw it in there. Just do that. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Zoho's free. HubSpot's free. There's all kinds of different free CRMs. I think Pipedrive might even have a free version of it. And just play around with it and just think about that concept of like keeping all of your contacts handy and having it in a place that's not LinkedIn. Because what if you do ever go out on your own? What if you do ever change something? What if your situation changes and you don't even have a choice? Now you've kept track of that. And so that's something that I'm big on. And yes, it's 2017. I should have done this like 50 years ago, but I'm doing it now. And it's something that I found to be really valuable. And that is basically taking the best of several things and then forming the system that works for you. And then also telling a story, wrapping it in a story. Man, this is like going back to a couple episodes. But I don't know. This is one of those ones where I'm like 3 minutes away from my deadline to hand this thing in. And I was going to do a top 10 list. And I got to number 7. And then I was like, I'll just make stuff up. That's what I'm doing right now. So this is a digression, but it's what makes it human, is that we do things. And so I don't know about you, but I had a great 4th. I'm still working on a lot of stuff. I should have taken some time off, but it seems like I'm always taking time off to travel, to go places. I'm going to Europe for 3 months starting next week. So I'm running errands, getting things notarized, getting my passport renewed. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. And so there's no sleeping when you are an entrepreneur. There's sleeping, but it's not always the highest quality. And there's no sleeping on being an entrepreneur. That's really what I meant to say there. So this is going downhill very quickly. And so with that note, I think I'm going to end it here. So for show notes, visit Jeffalytics.com/scheduling. And I look forward to talking to you next week when we are going to have an interview. I can't wait for it.